Hello, and welcome to here. We are here with Foundational Things. I'm Donna Harris, and this is day 6 of Find What You're Looking For, an internet searching, informational training, whatever you want to call it, series, a 9-session series. And I am so happy to be here with you on day 6. We're going through all of this week, right through to Friday, and just continuing to bring you hopefully helpful information, new insights into the world of searching, and how you can better use the internet to do the things you need with search. So we're gonna dig right into this today. Pretty excited. I think the more the week goes on, the more excited I'm gonna get. Not just because the week is going on and the weekend's getting closer and all that stuff, but just because there's just so many neat little things that I'm excited to share with people. So let's dive in. Where did we leave our hero? Well, where has our hero been? Let's look at that first. So we were looking at search operators over the first 3 days. So you can check that out. Sessions 1 through 3 are on the YouTube playlist for find what you're looking for. And this is the final of the middle section here on search settings. And we talked about search engines and customizing and browser functionality to help with search. And we're continuing on with that today. And then starting tomorrow, we get into it's the home stretch for the series, talking about search context, and looking a little bit closer at the results we're getting. How do we get results and how do we refine our results? But the results we're getting and the context for what we're searching for. And so we're going to dig into that from days 7 through 9. So that starts tomorrow. So that's going to be a lot of fun. I'm a big context kind of person, so I'm excited to take you there with me. We've hinted at that a little bit. But for today, let's not run ahead of ourselves. Today, day 6, we're continuing to look at search settings, customizing and personalizing our searches, and finding ways to use the tools that we have a little bit better or a little bit differently. Just some ideas here and there for things that might come in handy for you on your journey. And but first, before we go back into that, one of the web browser things that I promised in a day 5 session that we would return to is this idea of the bookmark manager. And you might be saying to yourself, what does that have to do with anything? What does that have to do with searching? Well, this is where you have an opportunity to stash your search results. And I found myself kind of referring to it, but not really doing anything with it in the session yesterday. And I actually promised in the session, you know what, tomorrow we're going to have a quick look at this because it's worth our time. So to tie in with some things that we were talking about yesterday and kind of why it connected into my train of thought on day 5 was that yesterday's session, day 5 session, we were looking at one of the things we were looking at is this idea of using different profiles or users on our web browser to organize our search history and our things. And I talked about bookmarks being part of this. You can have your personal profile and you can have your work profile, and you might have a different set of things that you're doing and things that you're searching for. And when you're in that work mode, you might have work related websites that you're trying to organize. You have search results or things that you're always going to, and you might bookmark those things just like you would with the physical book. I have tons of physical books over here on this shelf, and then a piece of paper or something, proper bookmark even, that just slides in there and helps you find where you've been so that you can go back to it later or know where you left off or whatever that is. So that carries over into our web world. And the neat thing is that we can not only stash these results away. We can organize them and keep them separate for our different contexts, our different users, but we can also search them. So that is part of why I wanted to bring this to our attention today. So I have gone ahead and imported a few bookmarks, created a few new bookmarks into this session that I have been using, my little cardinal or red bird of some sort there, for my foundational things profile demo user. And if we go into the settings, this is Google Chrome today that I'm using. You can go down to bookmarks and you always have the option to bookmark whatever you're looking at, showing the bookmarks bar, which you may or may not need. Bookmark Manager. So this shortcut here, this is Option Command B for Mac users, and that should equate to Control Alt B for Windows users. And when we open that up, again, this is specific to the web browser. You will probably find that a similar shortcut works on other browsers. I tried it with the browser I use. I use the Brave web browser a lot for my own browsing, and the same shortcut works there. And but regardless, you will find some kind of bookmark manager in the settings. And so here we have a bunch of, I've already done some organizing here. Sometimes we don't have time to do organizing. Sometimes, despite our best efforts, because you can go and you can you can add a new folder. You can do all sorts of stuff here. I've got some stuff from a previous semester of school, and I was doing some research. And so every time I thought, well, maybe I'll want to come back to that. Maybe that'll help me with an article that I'm writing, or maybe this is a project idea. I stash that away or put it in this folder, and then it's all there. And that's really great and helpful. Sometimes I'm doing stuff trying to understand how to do something with a graphic editor. And so I have a very funnily named digital arts thing folder here. It doesn't matter what you call it. For me, it helps me find it. But sometimes this doesn't look anything like what my real world of websites and things looks like, because I have a lot, and I have a lot over a lot of years, and there are lots of folders, and sometimes I miss and get it in the wrong folder. And I'm positive that I have searched for something, found it, said that was awesome, I'll need that again, made a bookmark, stashed it somewhere, and can never find it again. And this is where our friend search comes in really, really handy. So even if you don't have anything on the bookmarks bar, I don't. If you care about that, if that's for things, show the bookmarks bar. So that's empty right now. Let me add very important website here, just so if you're not familiar with that. So if I just here's me adding a bookmark. And if we just want it on the bookmarks bar, because I need that every day, we'll just save that there. And there we go. So that's what bookmarks bar is, just for anyone who's maybe not seen that before. So now it shows up. Fine, that's great. But I'm like, where did I can go to, I had the thing about corn dogs. And it's like, this is just the history of corn dogs. I was positive I had a recipe, and then I forgot that I had it here. Okay. That's fine. I'm like, I know I had it. I can just start to type in corn dog, and there it is. There is the best gluten-free corn dog recipe. That's the link I need. So this is just a reminder that search is available for our use in so many different contexts. You're probably finding that you're doing this in your email, for instance. Some email programs do this better than others. Some email providers do this better than others. But we just have so much data, and this is hopefully more and more your kind of default. Even when we do our best attempts to organize our data, search is very handy to remember, is a powerful tool. So that's all I had to say about that. That's all I wanted to do with that today. But I promised I would. And again, it ties into the idea of, once we find something, if we want to hang on to it, where do we snag it? Where do we put it? So Bookmarks Manager helps us organize stuff, as well as find it later. And search comes right into that. So that's awesome. Yay, search. Okay. This was the other thing that I was hoping to touch on, but this flows so naturally into what we're doing today that I am kind of glad that it ended up being done today. So, back on day 4, so last week, we had a quick look at Google's advanced search interface. And so I want to look a little closer at this. And then I want to see how some of the functionality that is on that interface, if you recall that interface, it almost looked like a form. It just had a whole bunch of places where you could type in so things specific to what you were searching for or how you were searching for it. And it just will be there in a moment. You'll be able to see it if you don't know what I'm talking about. But some of the things that are on there, there is another place you can find those things just in the context of searching. So once we already have some search results, then there's a whole other set of options and ways to filter and change our results without changing the keywords that we're searching on. So we're going to take a look at that, and then that's going to naturally flow us into some search engine settings. So I'm going to just kind of go over this now because I think once we're in flow, we will see that we just sort of stay in flow. So we're going to actually look at search engine settings. So yesterday we spent a bit of time, so day 5, we spent a bit of time looking at web browser settings and how we can configure those for search. And for some of our preferences while we're searching, because, enjoying what we're doing matters. And then we're going to play a bit with location settings. And that's the one that I just kind of want to spend a little bit of time with today, just because it's interesting. And here I am sitting in an office and, on a laptop with, some other computers around me. And there's nothing very mobile about me right now, even though location comes into it a bit. There are ways that that our computers are identified on a network, and the search engines of today can say, well, based on what I see on the network, you're in this vicinity. Even if we don't explicitly say this is where I am, there's a lot of influence based on where it perceives us as being, where it's pretty sure we are based on this other information about us. So what's kind of neat is that there are ways that you can, just in the browser without bringing anything else into the mix. There's all sorts of ways to do all kinds of things, but without doing anything else, without leaving the browser, there are some settings that you can play with that adjust what you're seeing. And there are ways in which it's helpful to know that you can do that, know that that's a possibility, because then it gives you another tool to play with depending on what you're searching for and what you're looking for. So we'll do that. And then all of a sudden, that'll be it. There's the summary slide. So let's just go forward and backwards a few times, apparently, and come back over here. So the first thing we wanted to do is find advanced search. So if you recall from day 5, when I'm on this is just the new tab. This is not actually Google. This is searching that would take us to Google, but I want to actually be on the Google homepage to show you this. So here we are. Oh, hey, I never changed the back. So you can see, I'll have to change that in a second. Right there in the bottom left-hand corner. Let's just jump around a bit. I talked about location right there. I am definitely not in Australia. I am still very much in Canada, in Southern Ontario, and that is not Australia. So there is a hint to what's to come. So day 4, we looked at, it was day 4. Day 4, we looked at this idea that off of the homepage of google.ca or google.com, for instance, there was something called advanced search. So where did I find that? Right here, settings in the bottom right-hand corner, advanced search. And that brought me to this really interesting, maybe a little overwhelming at first, page that has all these options about searching. So you can still search for, we've searched for apples and oranges and spaghetti with meatballs, and we've searched for Dairy Queen and all sorts of stuff. You can still put these things in. If you're familiar with the search operators either from the session, the sessions at the start of the series, or just because you were already familiar with them. You can see that these nice little tips here are aligning with some of those things that we can do. We can exclude certain words. It's some of the same idea. We can search only on certain websites. So here we go. We can put this in. But there's some other things that we haven't talked about, that we haven't seen, and aren't actually really easy to figure out and to remember how to put things in when we're typing in our search criteria. So let's look at these a little bit more closely. I am a native English speaker, and really it's my only language. I understand a lot of French, and at the moment I would not consider myself truly bilingual. However, sometimes I'm interested in seeing something in French because I'm just curious how much French I would recognize. But if you are someone, especially who is very fluent, very comfortable in 2 or more languages, and there's lots of you out there, you may be interested in doing searches in other languages and for other languages. So there are settings that allow you to do that. Searching in any region. Let's put ourselves back into Canada. Timing, something that's come up in the last week. And I like some of these other things, like, okay, yeah, we don't want any explicit results. We better not be getting any from Dairy Queen. But we're going to look up Dairy Queen, menu, Blizzard. I'm not even going to get fancy with any of the other things. I just want to find something in Canada, Dairy Queen, menu, Blizzard, anywhere in the page, that's fine. But something like in the last week, or maybe the last month. Let's go with the month, because I want to know what the summer menu is. I'm not going to try to search on the Dairy Queen menu, because I want to see what people are talking about. I want to see what, what's the buzz about blizzards right now. I happen to love Dairy Queen blizzards. All right, so if we go advanced search here, you can see that there's some things that are very specific to being in Canada. I'm not in New Brunswick, so that one's not as helpful to me. But at the same time, Dairy Queen's probably going to be doing stuff across the country, right? So what things are going on? Oh, cool. This is going to talk about, and this is current, June 2022. I've asked for things that are relating to stuff that's happened or been updated or released in the last month. So that's really helpful and really significant to be able to use that. But, here's this summer blizzard menu, 2 new flavors. Like, this is what I'm looking for. This is exciting. This is pretty cool. And what are people talking about? So sometimes that's the kind of thing that we're looking for. So that's great. You could do that. You could go to advanced search and do that. That's wonderful. But it seems like overkill, doesn't it? So let's put in, this is really going to mess with it, possibly, because it still has me in Australia. But it also, it's interesting. When you put in your region, you're not telling it that's where you are. It's telling you what you're interested in searching around. It still knows that I'm on a network in this part of Ontario, right? So it's still going to bias things that way. So this is what I want to introduce you to. We can ignore Australia region for a moment. After you start a search, so I just did your basic search. I didn't use any, I didn't put quotes around Dairy Queen. I know that it's going to, that search is developing so much that a lot of the search operators, that there are times that it has a good sense of being able to understand my intention. And this is a pretty basic search. And if I was finding, it wasn't coming back as Dairy Queen, then I would start to put the quotes around it and say, no, really, I mean Dairy Queen. Those two things have to be together. That's where the refinement really comes into play, where you're saying, oh, okay, I put my search criteria in and it's not picking up on it. I need to give it a little bit more specificity. I need to be a bit more precise about my exact intention and try to use those tools and techniques to get there. So in this case, yeah, it's in the ballpark, but I don't just want anything. Yep, it's returned something from Dairy Queen. Yep, I can go to the menu and I can see exactly what's available right now. That's true. But that wasn't my intention. I want to know what people are saying about it. I don't actually want to hear it from Dairy Queen. But I'm not looking for a review exactly either. So what's the buzz? Okay. So I press tools. Tools brings me to a little bit of a filter, which is kind of handy because we didn't have this anywhere else. So now in the last month, I'm interested in things in the last month and it starts to go down. Now this looks an awful lot like what we were seeing before. I can, apparently I can't change that right now because of the region. That's too bad. But Dairy Queen, I don't believe is in Australia. So it's going to give me North American results. And I really want this to be showing me results in Canada. So this is an opportunity for me to show you how you can do that, how we should do that. Because we're already in the midst of search results, I don't want to go back to the home page and start again. So I'm going to come to settings from here. So let me just do a side-by-side here. Again, this is the new tab. This is google.ca. So settings is down here, and then I could go to search settings right there. If I'm already on the google.ca or .com, like that homepage, but I'm not. I'm in the middle of doing search results. I am in the middle of trying to refine and find things that are going on here. So I can go to settings from here. Depending on what I'm looking for, what I need might be right here. But in this case, it's not. I'm not interested in going out to advanced search again. But if you wanted to do advanced search from this place, this is where you would find it. But no, we're actually looking for more settings. So we don't need the quick settings. We need to see all the settings. So we'll go here, and this is going to bring this up. And this is where we start to get into what the customizations specific to this browser, to this search engine rather, are. We've spent time looking at customizations in day 5. We spent time looking at customizations for the browser. This is for the search engine. So looking at Google Chrome, this is where we find it. But all the search engines have this idea of settings, all this, they probably have the idea of here's the settings that you're probably most likely to want to mess with right now. But then, like we did here with Google, being able to go into all the settings and see that. So you can see what we've got. We can filter out, have the safe search on. You can change the number of results that are coming back. You have the option to get rid of popular searches. So often you've noticed perhaps that, you haven't searched on something before, but as you start to type, it gives you suggestions for maybe what you're searching for based on what's popular in kind of not just what's trending, but like what are people searching for right now. It is a trend, but it's kind of like it's based on where you're heading with whatever you're typing in. It's pretty cool and creepy all at once. There's some voice options there. How you can do stuff. You can see right at the bottom here, though, we've got region settings. So you can go to your current region, which is mostly what we do. And if I put my current region, it's going to recognize me as being in Canada. I'm going to explicitly put it in Canada if I can find it. I feel like there's like something missing right here. Like Bermuda's not on this list, for instance, and it should be. I feel like there's an issue with this page. It bothers me. But anyway, there are a lot of countries here, and a lot of regions here. So we do that. And then once we save it, it takes us back. This is why I appreciate this. Once it takes us back, we can be specific now to Canada. There we go. Dairy Queen releases Summer Blizzard menu featuring 2 new flavors, and it tells us all that, and that's kind of exciting. And then we've got some coupons, and I'm not in Kamloops, and I'm not in, but it's again, it's not detecting. It's not right now. I don't actually think. I think I've managed to kind of fool this browser a little bit into not really knowing where I am. Not even trying fool it. I think I just haven't given it permission to access that information. So it's making its best guesses, and then it's taking my general information of saying, hey, I'm in Canada. Canada's pretty big. Canada has a lot of regions within it. We're not the only country that is like that. So it's kind of a big blanket statement. But anyway, so the focus for right now, we'll come back to location, but the focus right now is just this idea that, yeah, we can tweak this. Like, what's it going to look like? Does it change at all? The past week, it would have still come up in past week. This is breaking news 6 days ago. Like, yeah, we're on the cutting edge of this information about the Dairy Queen Blizzard menu. This is super helpful. When you're looking for something that isn't ancient, it's really great sometimes to go back into sort of that way back timing machine and find out that, yeah, this really awesome Blizzard flavor was available 3 years ago and you can't get it now. Just an aside, it's very important to me, dear to my heart. Where did the Reese's Pieces Blizzard go? Why did that ever leave? I don't understand. I have not met anybody who has been offended by it. And it is just one of the best Blizzards ever. And it's been way too long and they need to bring it back. Thank you. Okay. Anybody watching from Dairy Queen, please pass that on. Super important. Okay. So that's kind of fun. Another thing we're looking at here when we're doing our search results, we've grabbed the tools thing and we can hide that and we can clear it. If we want that to go away, we can clear that. But what are these things here? We haven't talked about this, and this is also important. And most browsers seem to have something along these lines. So I would also consider these filters for your search results, but it's filtering down to specific kinds of content. So it's kind of like we've got some results come back. In this case, we don't actually have that many. We've narrowed it down. What did we say? I think this is in Canada in the past week, specifically Dairy Queen Blizzard menu. So we have 113 results, which really isn't a lot. But if we filter, more is just giving us more filters. Some of these things aren't going to relate to what we're doing at all, and they're just going to head off to their own thing. But images and news and videos in particular, possibly shopping, those filter us down to just see images relating to Dairy Queen Blizzard menu in the past week. And then we'll be looking a little more at images in one of the context sessions. But news, what are we looking for? This excites me. This was posted 7 minutes ago. I could not have planned this. The secret menu Dairy Queen Blizzards. What? So I'm going to have to go look at that later. But see what's happening now. This is expanded out. All of a sudden, we're talking about 20,000 results. So something changed. So this is one of those things that's interesting to kind of see that, okay, as we change our context, different things are happening. We have videos about this. Again, the number of results is changing, but it's done something that's kind of expanded that out. It also that's the other thing that's happened. Our tools filter has changed, right? So this is where our brain needs to be critically thinking about what we're seeing happen. Does this make sense, right? Because we're back here and now all of a sudden we've got that 3 million plus results because it's any country and any time. But if we take it back here, okay, what are my news? So it's held on to it this time and it's saying, oh, but there's nothing that matches that. So if we go to the web, but it's still the past week, this is picking up on that brand new article that we couldn't have known about before this. So if you're seeing things changing, it's because sometimes things change. Sometimes it's because it intentionally frees you up, or sometimes it's a bug. Sometimes it's just the way that it's designed to work, right? So always being aware of what your intention is, what you're searching for, and remember that sometimes because of something that you've done or something that the computer that the application is doing, that your original intention matters, but it might not be observing that anymore. So you have to sort of be on your toes, as it were, to realize like, oh, okay, that's different. That's not what we were talking about. So like this is cleared out, but we can also, that's past the past week still. So that's fine. But think about what you're seeing and what you're doing next, and realizing that when we go back to all, it's wiped it out again. So that it has that kind of behavior. Doesn't mean you can't use it. It just means that if you're flipping around and trying something else, that when you return, it doesn't always return to the way that you left it, or something else that you've applied since may or may not still be applying to what you're doing there. So there is that. Okay. I really want to remember to go look for that. So I'm going to leave that page open for myself for later. It's probably American. It probably doesn't apply in Canada, but I still need to know. So let's go back to this idea of location and region. So if I refresh this, yeah, there we go. So Canada. This browser is in a Canada region kind of mode. So we're going to look at something that will demonstrate something interesting that happens. And I think it happens to some extent with all browsers. Google's going to handle it differently because Google is Google. So what have I done? I've typed in the word football. So Canada is awfully close to the United States of America. Canada has its own football league. It's a little bit different than American football, but not much. I say that as not really being a football fan, sorry. But the look of the football is the same. Okay, that's my point. The gear that they wear seems to be very similar. And American football is kind of the focus. It's a North American thing. So if you're familiar, I mean, people ask, according to Google, that why is football called soccer? What, and this starts to get into the thing. Well, it depends where you are in the world, what football means. So in Canada and in the United States, there's a sport that's called soccer that in other parts of the world, in English, it is often referred to as football. And in other languages, it's a word often that sounds a bit like football, or spelt a bit like football, just tweaked to be in another language. So it seems to just only be in this part of the world where it's called this. So when I'm in Canada, I have got like 3.5 billion search results that come back. And I do have ads. I need to make a caveat here that I noticed when I was kind of running through this. This is totally picking up on where I am. This is personalized ads based on where it thinks that I am. I have discovered that you can go into ad settings and you can turn this off. But it does not take effect immediately. So I decided I would leave it on so that you could see that, so that you could change it for your own desires and needs. But this is going to recommend to me footballs near me. So I could run out to Sport Chek or Canadian Tire or one of these other Canadian online retailers and go buy an actual football. I love throwing footballs. I do have to say that. I find that really fun. Throw a mean spiral. So, okay, cool. There is something interesting I want to show you here. So if we flip to settings, and then we have to go, because we're going to change the region, we have to go to see all settings, scroll down to the bottom. So if I flip to, let's go with Italy. Yep. Go with Italy. Save that. Thank you for telling me that my preferences have been saved. I have changed nothing except the region. The ads are still picking up on me being where I am and just wanting to recommend that I go buy football somewhere nearby. But it's kind of interesting because, for one thing, it changed a bit. This does still seem to be North American football, but it changed according to the region. Fascinating. If I scroll down a bit more, we're looking at links for European football, Sky Sports, which is British. Okay, let's change regions again. Argentina. Is it really changing regions? That seems to be exactly the same. Interesting. It's not doing what it was doing before. United Kingdom. Okay. bbc.co.uk football. This is talking about Premier League, Championship, European, World Football, soccer, scores and fixtures, European Football, Premier League. Latest from the bbc.co.uk about Manchester United, Newcastle United, got the signing of a Japanese midfielder. Sky Sports has come up again. The Guardian, the English Football Association, talking about football, news, transfer rumors, again, Premier League, EFL, Europe and beyond, Football Manager. Association Football is the first Wikipedia page that comes up. Soccer. So that's different. Again, I didn't change anything except for the region. And Google's trying to look at it from the perspective, even though I'm on google.ca, even though I'm sitting in a little room in Southern Ontario, because I've said, let's look at the United Kingdom for this search as a region. It's giving me results much more targeted to someone who's interested in that region or is in that region. It's not saying to Google that I'm in that region, but it is trying to, bring me more into that world or that mindset. Let's just do one more just for fun, just to see, really, this is a powerful, interesting thing. Let's go to India. I didn't do this one ahead of time. This is exciting. What does that do? So that one kind of went back to, oh, there we go. Okay. So this one's a little bit more like what we were seeing with some of the others. But what are we seeing? ESPN.in. So that's Indian ESPN. We're still seeing things about soccer. What I grew up calling soccer. I think in my heart of hearts, I believe it's football. I think that's just my British ancestry and my very, very, very distant Dutch ancestry. Yeah, so that's interesting. So there's different ways that you could be creative and think about maybe how to apply that, how that would be interesting to you. But it could be useful if you're doing something like planning a trip or trying to help somebody who lives in a different part of the world than you, and you're doing some research for them, or you're trying to help them out, get some information for them, and they're not able to do it themselves or whatever. Trying to understand, get insights. We talked about it a few sessions ago, probably day 4, about the idea of searching on a search engine that is based in a part of the world other than the part that you live in. So um, I'm in North America, and there's a lot of influences specific to North America that are very interesting. Whereas if I did a search from a search engine or even on like a news web page or something from a different part of the world, I'm getting a very different take, a very different lens, a different perspective. So likewise, there are times where you're going to want that when you're planning a trip or doing some research or just trying to learn, trying to understand the world around you and the world beyond where you are. So this isn't the only way to do it. But again, I'm just going to give an interesting little example. We're going to go to American Samoa. Sure, let's do that. Football isn't what I want to search on anymore. Let's go see if we can find a place to get a burger. So this is cool. If I typed in burger, it would give away exactly where I live, and it would tell you where near me there are burgers. There are a few places. Um, but in this case, and yeah, it's still giving me a whole wide world of burger results. Like there's over two, I point at the camera. There's over 2 billion results that have come back from this Google search on the word burger. But because of the region that I've made the request from, it is anchoring it. American Samoa, just to be clear, is a small island compared to, say, the region the region of Canada. The country of Canada is the second largest mass country in the entire world, with a lot of distinct regions within it, and then regions within those regions. So when they, just randomly pick a point in Canada, I don't even know where that would be. Would it be the capital? Would it be literally the geographic center? Would it be the most populated part? Would it just be some weird mix of everything? I don't know. But when you pick somewhere small, geographically speaking, like American Samoa, comparatively, it's going to pick a place. It seems to have maybe centered a bit around, maybe this is the capital, but the international airport. That's significant. So you can see that it's mentioned a few different places. I don't know anything about these places. I do know that people are rating it pretty well. The Carl's Jr., the Flying Fox Brewing Company, Dickie's Diner, and it's suggesting some things that are rated. But, Pago Pago, you go to the Carl's Jr. in Pago Pago. It opens soon. And that's kind of cool. You get an honest review here that says, hey, I prefer the place across the street. That's kind of neat. But if you were planning a trip to Pago Pago, wouldn't it be interesting to do a search to do your research, with that region set? And you would still search specifically to whatever. You wouldn't likely just type in burger like I did. But, let the power of that kind of idea of targeting it more into that kind of sink in, right? Again, this is still pretty general. This stuff probably is just, has no particular value that's specific to the region. But usually the first things that come up, again, this is already starting to kind of spill a little bit into tomorrow on the idea of looking at context. What comes up is going to say, well, here's some suggestions. Here's some ideas. And you could do that with anything. You could do that specifically. Let's refine it a bit more and say a restaurant review. And this may or may not actually help us. It's hard to know, because in this context, it really hasn't helped us. Okay, so we may know that American Samoa is not far from New Zealand comparatively, but we're getting reviews and suggestions for hamburger restaurants now in New Zealand. So that's actually not particularly useful. But it might be a place to start, is I guess what I'm saying, is to use region in different ways. Because, like we saw with football, the way that the information comes back or what we're seeing is going to be a little bit different. Let's see what comes up. We'll go back to, oh, that's not right. That's me. So it doesn't carry over enough for that purpose, but it can be used for search and can give you interesting insights about the things that you're searching for. So let's explicitly type in, excuse me, explicitly type in American Samoa and type in museum. And again, we're in this region, so we can compare this side by side. These results would not change, but it's giving us some, here's a museum that you would go to in Pago Pago. Cool. I would kind of like to see that. That would be neat. And we are still down here in American Samoa. These are things, wow, now I really want to go there. That's amazing. So it's highlighting. I did not know, but you could have typed this in without. So let's see if it looks any different. Let's just be explorers and be curious here. So note that when I change the region back, it does change it across this entire browser session, but it shouldn't change what I've already searched on. You follow? So when I pick Canada, because that's where I am, save, okay, and then search here on American, I can spell better than that, American Samoa Museum. So it is a little bit different, but it might just be returning it in a slightly different order. So this on this tab here, we see that this TripAdvisor post is here. And it's there. So maybe it isn't that different. Which is fine. Again, not trying to make some great big point here about this is the only way that you can use this or whatever. More just trying to bring up the idea that region has some influence, but it doesn't have all of the influence. And I think if you play with it a bit for yourself, depending on what it is that you're looking for, again, it's a tool that you can use that can just give a little different kind of insight to the thing that you're looking for. I think a more powerful example really was the football one, in seeing that, just the lens that Google is going to look for. And again, whose lens is it? It's still Google's lens. Go to a different search browser and a search engine and find that they are going to have a slightly different lens. That's fine, right? But there's some influence still. There is, again, there's something about your intention that is there because you're intending to come at things from that region, from that lens. So I don't think that's a wasted example. It just shows us that it isn't always going to work the way that we think it is, and it isn't always the end of the world. We still have things that we can explore and other ways to come at stuff. So what have we done today? There are lots of ways to customize and tailor your searching experience to your preferences and to your needs. Search engines can be customized. We haven't really practiced the idea of saving or syncing, but when you log in to a search engine, I can show you quickly before I don't want to go that way. I can show you quickly before we go that we could log in. Okay, you can use your Google account and you can log in and it can sync across and you can turn sync off, but you can still save all your details and there are all sorts of ways, and it totally depends on you, what you need to do, what you're comfortable doing, whether you want to have everything synced across different devices, whether you want to have things saved in the cloud. whether it's something that needs to be. More to the point, for me, I'm not logged in because this does not need to be saved for me. I don't have any particular settings that I'm trying to hang on to. I can destroy this profile and then create a new one later. So I don't have any reason to sign in directly to the search engine. But there are times that I totally am. If you're already kind of working in the Google universe of things, if you're working with Google Docs and your Google Drive and working with things in the cloud, it's very likely that you probably are logged in, or that you want to be logged in. So sorry, I realized that I didn't spend really a whole lot of time with that, but conceptually speaking, all these customizations and settings and things, they can be specific to your computer, which is what we've been doing right now. And they can be saved. And the next time you use the computer, the next time you use that browser, specifically that browser and that search engine, those things can still be there and ready for you to use. But you can go beyond that, and then you can be logged in the case of Google Chrome with the Gmail account, and be synced across different devices and use that browser and its settings other places, and have it connect into your phone or another computer or whatever. Whatever suits you. We looked at filters and how filters can be used in search results. This is probably one of the most interesting and exciting takeaways, I think. It's the idea that you have this power as soon as you start searching. You don't even need to use that advanced search interface, as cool as it is. As soon as you start searching on something and you start getting those search results back, you can filter down to things that are more current, or there is an option to do a custom range thing. So if you really want to know about those Blizzard flavors from like 5 years ago, and you can find that cached somewhere, hidden away, you can put in a time range that doesn't include today in that filter. You can do things that allow you to filter or search specifically on images or on news or for videos. And you can do filtering in that way, which is a little different than filtering our search results. We saw that with what we were doing with all of a sudden there were a whole lot more options where we had it narrowed down very thinly, and then I changed over to another filter. Didn't really act as a filter, it acted as a search that we were starting almost over again. Maybe it was a little bit filtered. So it's frustrating that things work this way, but it's empowering to know that we can understand that things work this way, and that sometimes what we expect, what would be natural, why is it not working? And it's like, okay, well, it isn't working, but it's because it's not remembering what I just asked it over here. So I'm going to have to apply that again. Or it's remembering some of what we were, searching for, but not all of it. So just realizing that, yeah, sometimes you just have to take charge and really be aware of, okay, is my intention in my search still being reflected here? Did this just arbitrarily seem to broaden everything or narrow things down? Have I really just clicked something to start again? And the interesting thing is that the behavior that we're seeing today, maybe that will be something that's tweaked a little bit. Maybe there is a bug somewhere in there, and that it's going to be fixed the next time you use it, or, some time later after this video is posted. So it's really just about having your wits about you and realizing this is what we're looking at. This is what's here. This is what I'm expecting, but it isn't what I'm seeing. And just checking on the context of the features and saying, okay, I know I set this, maybe I need to set it again. Or maybe I see that this is still preserved. The time range is still there, but it's gone, and it's opened up another aspect of something that I was filtering on. So it's not something to get flustered about. It's just something to be aware of, and know that sometimes you kind of get set back to a slightly different place, and then you can move forward from there. And then we saw how location can be adjusted to impact results. Sometimes it's going to make them better. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's just going to give us a slightly different perspective, and that's okay. So find out where it works for you. Try some stuff. See what's going on. And I think that's it for today on this topic. So what are we getting into tomorrow? That kind of wraps up the idea of settings. Not that we won't ever talk about it again in the next few days, but we're going to move into a whole new phase. We've just ended the search settings. We're going to get into a little bit more with search context and some of the neat things that we can do. Some of the other places besides Google that we can use, some of the ways we can use Google, some of the things that are really fun that are really starting to get integrated nicely into search engines like Google, not just Google, but they're just hidden gems that are just kind of tucked away and really into this idea of searching and what we're doing and what we're looking for. So we're also going to look specifically when we come for day 7 tomorrow, search results. So what makes a good search result? How do we know whether we need to refine something else? So what's some of the logic and some of the things to be looking out for there? So we're going to talk a bit about search results, and we're going to start looking at the idea of context. It's been hinted at. We've had to talk about it in different ways in the first 6 days of the series, but we'll look at context and searching and start to talk about what that means as we are trying to find what we're looking for, and how do we apply what our context is to finding a good context online to do a good search that's going to help us get where we need. So we've got a bunch of tools, we've got a bunch of refinements. Now we're going to dig into the heart of what it is we're looking for, what we found, and what we know about it, what we can do next. So looking forward to that. This should be some fun stuff. In the meantime, if you haven't already, this is my gift to you. This is the free companion guide, Searching Made Easier. It fits along nicely with this series, with some of the main contexts, especially around search operators and how you make some of the decisions about context and things like that. You can check that out. That's a free guide available to you. The link is in the description on this video, as is the link for you to join the news and reminders email list that'll tell you when new series like this are up and coming. It'll tell you when our weekly YouTube videos get posted for once we return to our regular content schedule, and other news and things that are coming up in the foundational things world. You don't want to miss that. I want to be connected into to the foundational things family. Another thing that you can check out is those other videos on the YouTube channel. So, and that includes the other videos in this Find What You're Looking For series. Eventually, everything will be up there. There's a playlist specifically for this. All of the previous videos before today are already up there. I think yesterday's may be there. It's getting close. It's almost ready if it isn't. And certainly the first 4 days are already there. But there are other videos, other kinds of content. You can see some how-to videos and some other things that are going on there. So please check that out. So glad you're here. Thank you for spending some time with me, whether that was live or whether that's after the fact. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. Reach out to me personally. If you know me personally, send an email through the foundationalthings.com website. You can email me directly at info@foundationalthings.com. There's all these options and ways to reach out. If you have questions, if there's anything that's resonated with you, just please, I'd be so happy to hear from you. And if we're still in this series and you are able to reach out with your question, I would be so happy to address your question live during the series. And then if not, I'll do my best to point you in the right direction and help you find the answer to your question. That's it for me today. Have a wonderful day, and I'm looking forward to day 7 with you tomorrow. So until next time, take care.